Hello everybody, here we are today continuing on with our CFL season previews covering the Calgary Stampeders. So before we start with it, please make sure to subscribe if you're new to me or the CFL, whatever the case may be. That being said, let's get on into it. So last season was a year for Calgary where one thing went right in terms of making the playoffs. The playoff streak is alive, but so many things went wrong. Starting off with the fact that they were 6-12 and 1.4-12 on the year. This was a team that had real odds of, again, being one of the worst teams in the league. Able to rally back. Saskatchewan kind of fell through, but they were able to keep things going in terms of the standard, although this was far from the standard as one of their worst seasons in like 2 decades. But yeah, anyway, with all that kind of being wrapped up, they're more focused on 2024. So what are some storylines to watch out for this team this season? So the first thing is, can the run game be better? Last year, the team was kind of in a weird spot where the yards per carry and the yards per game weren't necessarily bottom 3 in the league, but they just were a side that probably could be a lot better in terms of the run game. They had the 7th worst offensive line when it came to run blocking grade according to PFF, and Kadeem Carey is gone. Now he is in a spot where, similar to William Stanback in Montreal, 2 guys that were going to be wanting a lot of money. They were older, that were not always consistently in the lineup. So it's not necessarily like Calgary's like, oh, we had to have him. Of course, he signed a value deal in Toronto, but he's gone, and that leaves an interesting spot where you see Dedrick Mills and then Peyton Logan competing for that job. Now, I think Mills is probably going to go out there and win it. He's been a guy that's been able to get like 30 carries in a game before. He is going to be more of the physical back where Logan returned kicks, and he is somebody that has more of that explosiveness. But you are wondering a bit what happens here if neither one of them perform, or if the offensive line is going to be, again, not helping them out in terms of run blocking. Last year we saw this Calgary offense where it struggled quite a bit at times. The pass game was not perfect. Jake Mayer had some games that were really bad. So if this team is struggling where they are having the offensive line struggle, they're having the pass game struggle, are you necessarily going to rely on Mills or Logan to be able to turn things around for you offensively? And if you are, is it really a healthy mindset to have? My argument is no. You're going to need things to be better in all aspects. And I think the offensive line especially is going to be able to, or have to be able to, help the running backs be able to create holes and find those gaps to be able to turn those into big plays where maybe Mills isn't going to go out there and give you a 50-yard run down the sideline, but he's going to be able to break free and get 15 or 20 yards. Maybe you give Peyton Logan just a little bit more time to break free, and he gets like a 50-yard gain from just like a screen or something like that. All of these things are something that is going to have a huge impact for what Calgary's offense is going to be able to do this year. So the second talking point is whether or not the Demerio Houston signing is a little bit overhyped. So Demerio Houston had a really good year last year in terms of interceptions and forced fumbles, 7 interceptions, 3 forced fumbles. So 10 turnovers right there. Going to be big because a lot of people get excited about that. They're like, wow, that is 10 opportunities you've created for your offense to go out there and score points. And anytime you're able to get a turnover, that's going to be a good thing, unless you're like pinning your team back on the one. Whenever we were playing football, when I was playing, they were like, you just got to be situationally aware in that instance. But one thing that I will say is we get a little bit further into just the stats and things like that. People are starting to be more aware that turnovers and all those things aren't just the end-all be-all. Again, that's just 10 turnovers out of all the snaps he's played. Is this going to be an overhyped signing? I can't necessarily say because we don't have a lot of that information that you get with some of these NFL analytics, but I do think you are looking at this and hoping he can continue to be able to have a lot of those turnovers, but mainly help out this team by not allowing big plays. Now, last year, Calgary didn't allow a lot of passing yards. They weren't really throwing a whole lot against. They had more of an issue against stopping the run, but it's more about helping make sure the secondary doesn't allow a lot of yards, kind of like they did last season, that could possibly allow them to be able to defend better against the run and maybe create more opportunities for this Calgary offense that struggled a little bit last year in creating points. And if you're able to, again, make points for yourself, if you get a pick 6 or if you set it up to where at the very least your team is getting a field goal, and that is going to be something to watch out for not just him but the whole team in general. All kind of things to watch out for. Calgary, I don't think had a lot of interceptions last season as a team. May have been towards the bottom of the league. I can't remember. I know Winnipeg had like 13, and a lot of that was, again, Houston. And maybe my stats aren't even up to date here, but I don't remember that Calgary had a whole lot. So yeah, maybe Houston could go out there and be a big addition, but if he goes out there and is getting burnt and isn't getting turnovers, could be very well one of those signings that's overhyped by how last year went for him. And then the final talking point is, should Calgary continue to trust the process? Now, in recent years, or for a very long time, the Calgary way has worked very well. And I know a lot of people would compare back in the day Calgary to the New England Patriots. They aren't going to go up there necessarily and pay a bunch of money to get these guys, or they're not going to just try to give out all their cap to one player when they could possibly find somebody else for cheaper to develop them, and that worked for a very long time. But in recent years, things have not worked out for this team. Now, before this, you had 4 Grey Cups in 2001 on to 2018. You had 7 division titles, and again, a playoff run that existed from 2004 until today. But you do have to wonder a little bit, with things being a regression and the team not really looking that dangerous, if this way still works. Mind you, this team has not won a playoff game since 2018. Now, of course, 2020 didn't happen, but 2019, 2021, 2022, 2023, they fell in the Western semifinal on all occasions. And I think that aside from that 3-point loss to Saskatchewan, none of those were necessarily close where they were going to win that game. Now, points they could have won that game, but yeah, they're just in a spot right now where they aren't winning, when the whole mindset was about winning. And you would say, if this is not going to work, what are we doing this for? Because the whole purpose is winning a lot of games where you have like 13 plus win seasons on regular occurrences, and winning the championship, which is something they did a lot. And even when they went there and lost in the Grey Cup, these were not blowouts by any means. A lot of these were very close losses where they could have gone on and won the championship themselves. But looking at the past 3 seasons, they are 26-24 over the past 3 years. They had that 12-6 season that helped them out a little bit. 2021, 8-6, 2023, 6-12. Are they really that good anymore? And if your answer is yes, I'd kind of like to know how, especially if they start off the year slow. So overall, what are my thoughts on the Calgary Stampeders? It's kind of all over the place. I think that Calgary is a team that could go out there and make the playoffs again, but they already dealing with some stuff like Malik Henry. He is out for the season with an injury. You have Coach Dickinson that could be on the hot seat. Now, one of those things are just kind of circling around players' minds and the coaching staff as they are trying to bounce back from a truly bad year. But they do have some things working for them. Mayer could take a step forward. They are seeing Matthew Schultz, which they ended up getting. He could be a spark for them, not even saying that he's going to be the long-term starter, but that kind of creates competition, but it also gives you QB depth, which is big. Some of these other teams are in a bad spot, but I think in the West in general, it's going to be very difficult. Edmonton looks like they could be better. Saskatchewan looks like they could be better. Winnipeg looks like a good team. BC looks like a good team. Somebody's going to have to finish last in this division. Who is it going to be? Could it be Calgary? I don't even know the last time they finished last in the West. Probably 2004, sometime in the early 2000s. I know they won a Grey Cup in 01, I believe. But yeah, looking at all this, they have some things that could work for them, but I'm not going to go out there and say this is going to be an 11-plus win team, because things could go poorly. But Cody Grace is going to be somebody we highlight. He had the most punts inside the 10-yard line last year. So if all else fails, maybe Cody could go out there and be good for them. Surely he's still signed by them. I'm going to look really ridiculous if he didn't sign an extension or if he was a free agent and left. But I don't remember him doing that. So yeah, when all else fails, Cody Grace is going to be there to make the day better. But anyway, what are your thoughts on the Calgary Stampeders? Do you think they'll make the playoffs? Do you think that they will win a playoff game? And if they fail to win a playoff game, or they fail to make the playoffs, do you think Coach Dickinson's time is over? Do you think that this team should change the ways of how they do things if things continue to persist in an average or below average way? Let me know all that stuff down below in the comments. Also, please make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. Everybody stay safe and have a great night.